Lionel Ketchian from Connecticut. That's who we're going to be interviewing today. And Lionel, I just want to say thank you so much for taking out this little time to spend with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It really, and especially spending it with you. I can't think of a better person to spend it with.
I am so excited. I would love for you to be able to share with everybody what inspired you. How long ago did you come up with the Happiness Club?
Really, it wasn't even my idea exactly. I was giving a course at Sacred Heart University in 1999 for a few years, but the first year I did it in the fall of '99, when the class ended after 4 sessions, 2 hours of class, they said, you know, we really didn't expect to become happy. We just thought we'd learn about happiness, and you know, we're amazed that we could really be happier than we ever dreamed we would be. We think we need to keep practicing this. Could we keep meeting? And I said, oh, that sounds perfect. I love the idea. So it wasn't my idea. They wanted to meet. They didn't want to call it the Happiness Club. They wanted to call it the Common Sense Club.
Wow.
Yeah, and we all agreed that, you know, what we're all learning is common sense, that happiness is common, but especially 12, 13 years ago, happiness wasn't very well known or very well understood. So as much as we all wanted to call it the Common Sense Club, we didn't think people would, yeah, it may be your common sense, but if they're not understanding it, how can it be common sense to them? And so we ended up calling it the Happiness Club in the end, because I thought happiness was important, and we stuck with that. And the only reason happiness became more of a generically positive name, I guess, was because positive psychology flipped over and went into happiness, and you know, now we're just inundated with happiness books and happiness research and happiness science, and Harvard, you know, universities, as well as many other universities, are now teaching courses on happiness, and they get behind it. The Harvard Business Review, as you know, I think I saw it on your website, has the Valuing Happiness, Harvard Business Review, and also on your website I noticed that you have the Science of Happiness issue from Time Magazine. I think that issue back in, I think it was 2003 or 2004, I think that changed everything. That got everybody very serious about saying, oh, happiness, what's that, to the science of happiness. Like now we got to get real serious about it.
Right.
And in the Science of Happiness was the great article in there. The whole issue was devoted to happiness from the beginning to the end. Was Dr. Lyn-Dee Eldridge was in that issue, and he talked about the laughter clubs and laughter yoga. So I think that was the beginning of the greater awareness that we're all seeing now in the happiness movement.
I'm so excited, and I'm so glad that you understood the word happiness is much more powerful than common sense.
Yeah, because you know, my idea of common sense is, yeah, we might, you know, we may all agree on what common sense is today, but I think what we've all come to realize is common sense for us. I don't mean this to be negative, but it could take the rest of the world another 100 years to get to the place where, you know, what was I thinking? You know, yeah, it's better to be happy than unhappy, and boy, is my life better this way. And so, yes, it's common sense, but unless enough people embrace it, understand it, and live it, you don't have that tipping point in society where more people start to realize, you know, yeah, you know, credit cards, not, you know, the older folks don't have credit cards because they just don't believe in it. So it takes conditioned, you know, responses, and you know, you got to live with something a little bit before you really take to it. You just, the proof is, look at computers. You know, you ask any young kid under 10 about, and they all are experts.
Oh yes.
And anybody over, I don't know, 50, 60 is, it looks like a dinosaur compared to what they can do. So when it becomes second nature to you, when you're more familiar with a topic or a thing, it becomes something that's part of you. And I think that's what's happened with happiness, that for so long it's been almost in the area of like religious leaders and religion. You know, like, oh, I have to go to church to pray, until somebody finally figured out, you know what, I don't have to go to church to pray. I could pray right here, right now, you know, whenever I want. So I don't need an intermediary to do it. And I think that that's what has happened with happiness. We don't need an expert or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anyone to really teach us how to be happy. We can begin to learn it in any way we want. And you know, today, you know, we have so many ways to learn it. The happiness clubs, you're starting a happiness club. And there's so many great books on happiness. I'm very excited because it's really a revolution that we can all take part in, and it's for our own good.
Absolutely.
You know?
And everybody owns it.
Yeah, it's ours.
It's ours. We own it. It's free. And, you know, Mark and I, my husband did the research on you, and that's why we're here. We travel from New Hampshire to Connecticut every Thursday to spend time with you. You have changed our lives, and you change millions of lives. And I do say millions of lives because of the internet, you have no idea who you touch and where you touch them.
That's true.
You're extremely, extremely powerful on a happy level.
Well, thanks very much, Lyn-Dee. And I think that, you know, it's nice to hear you say that. In the very beginning, when I, you know, kind of wanted to be famous with this happiness stuff, I went through this idea of, you know, what's more important, me being famous or happiness finding its true place in the world, in humanity. And at that point, I really came to grips with the fact that, you know what, I'm around for a while, and my fame has nothing whatsoever to do with the idea that happiness is the rightful heir of humanity. And so from then on in, I said to myself, you know, there's only one thing I want, and that's for happiness to take hold. And in the 21 years that I've been happy, I think there's nothing short of a miraculous, unbelievable revolution in the world of happiness. I mean, I think I was the first person to ever teach a class on happiness in 1999 at Sacred Heart University, and now many, many universities across the world are teaching it. Tal Ben-Shahar, you know, revolutionized it at Harvard with it, and many other professors at Harvard are jumping to happiness like a duck does to water. And positive psychology was really born in 1999 with Martin Seligman changing the face of psychology from what's wrong with you, tell me what's wrong with you, tell me your problems, to let's hear what's right with you and let's find out what your strengths are. Let's get to real business here.
Right.
And so I see the world as not only changing but never going back to the old model that we've been coming from. We now are learning to become empowered through understanding our own right to be happy.
Wow, and you touch very powerfully, very strongly on here and now, the presence. Share with us about that.
Well, I don't know, what else is there?
Exactly.
You know, I read a lot of books. I read thousands of books, and when you really ask me what do I know from those books, I don't know much. In fact, sometimes I think the more I've read, I think I stopped reading for this reason. The more I read, I started to feel like, now I thought I knew something, now I don't know anything at all. But I did come out knowing one thing, and that's being happy. And I say, you know, everything else I've ever read has just disappeared, and it's all with me now. So a lot of people will ask me about an author, or what do I think about this, and then if it isn't in there somewhere, and I don't even have a good memory, I don't know anything about it. So I only know now. I don't know anything. I can't remember things. As you know, if I get off my train of thought, that's it. I don't. But I don't care. I think it's another word for happiness is peace and freedom. And the only way to achieve that is to find out in your mind that you can have that space. You can create that in your mind at any time. You don't need any reason for it. And when you have the direct experience of being happy and connecting that with others, you know you got the real thing, because just like my feeling about you right now, when you asked me to talk about the present moment,
yes,
I'm looking at you. This is the whole of the present moment. You are everything to me. Once we embrace the moment we're in, the situation we're in, good or bad, and say, this is complete, I own it, I love it, I'm going to deal with it, or I'm going to enjoy it, whatever, what could you cringe from? What could ever make you feel bad in life but your own reaction to things? So then, once you give up fear, which is the opposite of happiness, you have the world to enjoy. And I'll tell you what happens. People not only treat you better, but you get a sense of what that person's really about. They finally open up and let you get a sense of who they are. They let you in. In fact, they let you in even more than they realize they'll let you in, and then you connect. What's better than happiness? Connecting to another human being.
That is so powerful, and you're contagious. You are so contagious. It is a blessing to take you with me every place that I go.
I wish I could go everywhere with you, but you got Mark. And I'm married for 44 years. But you know what? It is a gift. It's a gift we give ourselves. And when you have a person, not only do you just say, this is an acquaintance, this is a friend. No, to me, you and Mark are my soulmates. I can't get better than what I have in you. And so when we have a complete relationship with someone and not measure them, you know, oh, I know somebody with darker hair than you or lighter hair than you, or, you know, this or that, or, you know, you're from New York and I know somebody who's from, you know, California. What the heck does any of that mean? What does it even matter if it's a man or a female? The point is your connection with another human being. And the reason we're not connected is we're not connected to ourselves. And that's simply because we feel we're not complete enough. We're all fine. We're doing fine. As soon as we become happier, we become the complete person we really are. And who's not complete? If you got one arm and one leg, you're complete. You just have one arm and one leg. Most people think, I got to add something to myself to be who I am. No, you got to get, if anything, happiness is a matter of getting rid of stuff than getting in. You got everything you need. You know what you need for happiness? What? The realization that you could be happy. That's it. You don't need anything else. What else is there?
The power of control within.
It's true, and we don't live in ourselves. You know, we arrange furniture, you know, hey, this is a nice pillow, this is a nice chair, you're sitting comfortably, and we make a point to have our furniture set up so that we can appreciate it, right?
Yes.
So, what would it be like to live in a home where, you know, there are things on the floor that you don't know are there, and then you fall over them and you hurt yourself all the time?
Right.
Well, you know, that's all our mind is. When people are unhappy, they're leaving clutter around that doesn't need to be there, that you're falling over and hurting yourself. That's, to me, the definition of unhappiness.
Right.
Is not managing and taking control of the environment within your own mind.
Right.
You don't need that stuff in there. The
Junk
less
in
you
the
got,
junk.
the better off you are. You
Right.
want to be complete? Get rid of everything. You're complete.
Yeah. I love that. So many people live it because the world is stressed, but when wasn't the world stressed?
I know.
You know, everybody says, "Oh my God, today's world is so horrible."
Yeah.
When was it so wonderful?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's the
well, at
outlook.
5 o'clock, the Crusades could be coming through right about now if we lived so many years ago. Right?
You know, I mean,
or the Vikings. You know, it's always something.
anything can happen. You know, anything can happen right now. But it's what you're controlling in the moment, what you're thinking about, how you're handling the situation. So many people have a knee-jerk reaction. So many people could live in the negative fear, like you were just talking about, instead of saying, "Wait a second, can I control this? Is there anything that I could do?"
Yeah.
And if not, and just start thinking happier thoughts.
Well, the if not deals with acceptance. We really haven't been, first of all, in schools, we were never trained in what I call emotional competence. So happiness is nothing but emotional competence, and unhappiness is emotional incompetence. And it's not a bad thing, but no one should go to school. Let's say you're enrolling in kindergarten. Well, in this day and age, by the time you enroll in kindergarten, you're almost a graduate. In the programs you go to preschool, and so you don't mess with young kids today. But in general, going to your first day of kindergarten would be going into school not knowing much about most things, reading, mathematics. So if all the kids came into school and the teacher said, you know, I'm glad you kids are all here because you're all incompetent, you have no education, and you're a bunch of idiots. That wouldn't be a good way to get them off to a good start to learn more about life and how they can educate themselves to deal with life. So we teach them math, we teach them reading and everything else, but we're also really not giving them a full education and not teaching them about emotional competence, about being happy, about dealing with loss, about dealing with grief, about dealing with, you know, when we talk about loss and grief, it's also measured by happiness. When we do not have the experience of happiness and we don't have the good words to relate what that means, how do we achieve a position in our lives of incorporating happiness when we don't even know what it is? We don't even have good, my definition of happiness is it's an inner state of well-being, simple and I think right to the point. But I've been happy for 21 years, since 1990, and I've read in many, many books that that's not possible. You can't be happy all the time. You can't do it. Well, he also said, Roger Bannister, they said that nobody could run a mile under 4 minutes, and then Roger Bannister did. But after Roger Bannister ran that 4-minute mile in 3 minutes and something seconds, people continuously were breaking the record and lowering the speed. But more people than ever before started to break that record, only because he did it, and it was possible. So I know people that are happy all the time. I mean, I know a doctor who's written a book on happiness, and he runs a happiness, Dr. Robert Nozick out in California, been running a club out there for years. He wrote a great book on happiness. He's happy all the time for even longer than I am. There's not a lot of us, and I'm not saying that you have to be happy all the time, but I'm saying it's possible. And what I'm really saying is, does that mean that my life is that perfect, that everything that goes on goes exactly the way I like it? No. Some things go exactly the way I like it, and some things go exactly the way I don't like it. But to me, it doesn't really matter, because I've learned to accept the things it's the serenity prayer. I accept the things I can't change, and I change the things I can. And happiness has given me the wisdom to know the difference. That's what it all comes down to. But you know, to know in a situation where I don't know what to do with the situation or the person in it,
Right.
to know all I have to do is take care of me. That takes all the stress, all the pressure off everything. I may not know what to do, but I know what I'm going to do. And that's to relax until I have the right choice. In the meantime, there's nothing else I can do. And so I'm certainly not going to let the situation push me around. Because, you know, it's pretty much like getting food that you say is poisonous and then eating it. Like, if you don't like something that happens to you, why eat it? Why get angry about it? Why get upset? Why let it run your life? Why let it enter you?
Right.
You know, it's only, we really don't live in a world of reality. We live in a world of our thoughts, and we allow our thoughts to push us around, manipulate us, and then we really think in terms of the way we're allowing ourselves to be programmed. So all happiness is another way to program our thinking, so that, you know what, it doesn't matter what happens. I know I can deal with it. I mean, if something goes bad now, let's say I get an email, it's not the best thing, somebody died, anything can happen. I'm not making it lighter than it is what it is, but it can't change it. And by the way, I want to digress by saying, that's why I walk around most of the time when I get to know somebody a little well, I say I love you and I mean it, because we don't know how long we got. So live in the world, again, completely as we can. Because one minute they may not be there or we may not, so why not live it? And then, when it happens, you could always say, you know, I did the best I could. You know, guess what? There is no more I could do. I didn't create the world, I didn't create death. But it's a beautiful day out. I could still focus on that.
Right.
I could still focus on how loving you are to me, how incredible it is to be with you. And if every moment of our lives we include that full, complete moment, then something happens. Each moment is complete. You know, that's why people are bored, and that's why people are afraid. They feel this moment isn't enough. Something's missing. They got to add, they got to sprint, they got to go somewhere, they got to come somewhere. They better get back before it's too late or it's too early. It's all here now. We don't need a thing. But once we realize that, and we are feeling complete, we can give from that. We can only give from a state of completeness. That's why happiness, I think, is essential for the future of mankind. And I'm not making light of it. I think it's deadly important for the future of mankind to understand how important happiness is, because within happiness is not only the feel-good part, you know, and it's not pleasure that I'm talking about. It's human connection to the divine, to the point that our virtues, human virtues and human morals, are going to be lived at a much higher place than we do now, because people are going to be coming from integrity, happiness, caring, compassion, kindness to others, and only the best will flow out of people. But we got to kind of do it as a team, because if one team is working against the other team, it gets harder to support that team if they're working against themselves.
Absolutely.
So if we all pull in the same direction for our own good and the good of one another, that's happiness.
So in closing, Um, I would like the world to be able to do something that we could all do together. What would you suggest that to be? Would it be just to add that smile, give a smile to a stranger in the street, do an act of kindness? What is the one thing that could help just change?
I would say the smile would be great, but I'm going to go a little deeper than that, because that is a good one. I have found that for me, and the science of happiness, and what I've read and what I've come to know, what I've practiced and what I distill from my own knowledge, is that being grateful is the single most important thing I have found. I mean, I'm so grateful for this moment. I mean,
me too.
Divinely grateful. I mean, when we really think about it, this moment can never happen again. It's like a kid around my kids and say, "You want to see something that nobody in the world ever saw before and will never be seen again?" And they open a peanut. I said, "Here's a peanut. Nobody ever saw it. I eat it." And they go, "Look, no, you're never gonna see it again." But that's this moment. If we don't, now it's a joke, but if we don't cherish this moment, what if you're the Dalai Lama? But you know what? I'm treating you as if you're the Dalai Lama.
Right.
Because you know what? What the heck is the difference?
Right.
You know?
We're all special.
You may be prettier than the Dalai Lama, but the point isn't that. The point is, I have a connection to you.
That's right.
Just like with him, he doesn't really know me yet,
Right.
but it doesn't matter. It's okay. He'll get along fine without knowing me for a while.
Right.
But I think so, the gratitude that I seem to escalate in my own mind, because I have no worry. It goes into bliss.
Yeah.
I'm so great. Now that gratitude, if you could express that would make you happier, but it will also do other things. It would make you smile. I tell people to be grateful. They start laughing. They start smiling. They start hugging. And it all starts by realizing what you see. I think the reason gratitude is important is because to be happy and to live and survive in this world, we have to go from being controlled or think that we're being controlled by events and people to keeping our power, because that's what happiness is. It's retaining our power, not giving it away, to realizing we can do something that takes full control in our lives, and that full control is gratitude. No matter what happens in this world, and plenty of bad things happen, it's still a beautiful world.
That's right.
You know, now in the beginning, I used to think, this is a great world if there wasn't so many people that would screw it up. But now I feel, you know what, people are really great. It's just that they don't realize how great they are.
Right.
That's what, when I meet a person who's kind of a pain in the neck, I look at them and say, you're such a fool. You don't know how beautiful you really are. You don't know how great you really are.
Right.
You really are, but you don't know it. And I know it. And that has made all the difference for me. And I think if people could start being grateful for the world they live in, and you could always be grateful. You know why? Because we walk around saying, yeah, but you don't know what happened in my life, you don't know what happened to me, you don't know what my past is, but you know something? Yes, bad things happen, and no matter how bad it is, here's the point. No matter how bad something is that happened to you, it could have been worse. Or it could have been better. Everything could be like that. So you might as well get used to it. You don't get to choose that, but you do have the power of choice when you're aware of it to be as happy as you decide to be. I mean, you know what it comes down to? You can live in heaven or you can live in hell, and it's all for you here, right now, and it's up to you, what channel you're going to tune into.
Wow. And you also created this can, and it's called Food for Thought. I think it's brilliant. We're always eating something, so why not go ahead and open up a can of Food for Thought with absolutely incredible, amazing affirmations, one after another.
Thanks.
And you put this together. What would make you think of putting a book in a can and calling it Food for Thought?
My warped mind, I guess.
Your warped mind.
It was because at the time when I wrote this, it was 22 years ago, people really weren't reading much.
Right.
And I also wanted people to struggle, because all the work you're doing right now,
and it's worth it.
You're connecting yourself to the book, and then I wrote it upside down. You got to go from the front to the back.
I know.
And by the time you finish with the book, it's part of you. Now you got to read it.
It's amazing. You have to read it.
But
you work too hard to get it out of the
It's
can.
called food for thought. It's food for thought because
Brilliant.
when we eat something, it becomes part of us. But it's not really true that we eat it that it becomes part of us, because you could eat something and then spit it out. It's only when we assimilate it and then it becomes part.
Right.
In other words, when we make it a part of us, when it becomes us, then we've actually eaten and been nourished by something. That's the problem with philosophy and the thoughts that most people have. Their thoughts are eating them rather than picking the right thoughts to eat so that they can be nourished by them and grow from them rather than allow them to handle, you like cancer, because our thoughts could be devastating to us or powerful to us depending on how we regulate them. And we have that power of choice.
So powerful. And this was a gift that you gave to me, so no, you're not going to get it back, and I'm just going to put it back in that can.
Okay.
And I keep it with me, to be honest with you. Because every now and then, no matter how happy I am, I also have moments. I also have challenges. But when those challenges come, I think, I stop, I pause. You talk about pausing a lot. Pause. Can you control it? Can you do anything about it right now? Huh. And how do you feel about yourself? And smile.
Yeah, it's that space that we can create where we're not reacting to things, because we have a lot of stimulation in this world. Lots, most of the time. So some people say they get bored, but really boredom isn't because you're not stimulated, it's because you're reacting to something that you think isn't there. But even if you weren't around, it's still a beautiful world. In fact, the reason that I love you and I cherish this moment is because I can handle the world when nothing is happening, when I'm all alone, when I'm with my thoughts, when I'm able to think, and even depression. When I would be unhappy long ago, I would look at that. You get to the point where you don't even run from that. You just say, okay, what do I do with this? And eventually, the answers start to emerge if you look, long enough. I mean, the Bible even talks about, knock and it shall, it should be open, and seek and you'll find it. I think those things are true. But don't keep seeking because you don't think. Listen to answers with an inner understanding and try and use the answers and see if they work. If they work, if they feel right, and when they feel right. I don't think anybody should listen to anything I have to say. I think what I have to say is something that people should listen to only if it resonates with them. So I'm not here with any kind of message.
Exactly.
Other than the fact that we don't get to make the best choices for ourselves most of the time because we're not aware of what those choices are. And I think happiness is a really good choice we can make when we learn how to use that as a choice by being more open and more clear and more mentally fit in terms of dealing with what life throws at us. Because we really don't have to handle the problem. We have to tackle the problem in a way that continues us in the direction that we want to travel in. We don't have to address any problem. We just have to incorporate it and not let it stop us in our path.
Right.
And that's all, it's really all about us. And for me, I've learned that happiness is not a selfish thing. It's a gift I've given myself. What I never counted on was when I really became happy, 100%, I just wanted to share that with others. But what I wasn't counting on was that interconnection with others was heaven, was beyond my wildest dreams, was really great. And I didn't know, I only had the experience of happiness. I didn't have it in sharing happiness. So if you're the kind of person who's not quite happy, do it for your family, do it for someone else, and then all of a sudden you're going to find out the reasons flow into you. You just haven't realized. Most people aren't happy because they don't give themselves permission. It's that simple. And we're conditioned and we're taught to think about others,
Sure.
But you know what? There's nothing, if you don't have money, you can't give it away. If you don't have happiness, how do you give that away?
Wow. I love it. I love it. The whole world seems to be in competition with one another. Everybody's in competition, whatever it is, whether it's industries, whether it's people, and everybody's got to let go of it. Because here's what I do understand. So many people are idolizing celebrities, and they wish they were, and they wish they had.
Yeah.
Really? Are you not seeing what's going on with the celebrities, the drug abuse, the alcoholic abuse, how unhappy they are? All the money in the world. Everybody thinks that if they can make enough money, they'll be happy.
Yeah, until they make enough money. Then they realize, you know, as I said earlier, yeah, there is competition. And when I started my website in 1999, and I started, you know, Happiness, I've always endorsed all the authors, all the work, you know, I'm familiar with all of them. And what I started to realize, again, when I talk about my happiness cause, is that in embracing others, you know, and what they do, it's liberating. Who cares about myself? Who cares about? I mean, when I'm a funny thing is I'm a businessman, and so when I got out of that, and I got into this that cost me money to spread happiness, it was the most. It was the greatest thing I ever experienced in my life, and I started to realize that in any cause, it's not a personal thing, it's not an ego thing. If that's the case, like some people make money for ego, and that's the big game, and that's why there's so much competition. It's ego driven.
Right.
Now there's another side to competition, I think that's the happiness game, and that's cooperation. But here's the funny thing about cooperation. Cooperation is the game of not only winning when you start, but the only thing about the game, I know I'm going to win. That's the first part of the game. I already know I'm winning. I go into the game winning. I know there's no way to lose. The only thing about my game, of the cooperation happiness game, is getting others to win. And so how many other people can win is the only score I keep. And it's the greatest game you could ever play, because there's no losing anything. You're only winning. And every time, you know, it's like you score a touchdown or you score a win, or somebody else tells you about their unbelievable situation in life, you know, they're either happier, better, healthier, whatever it is that they've overcome. I feel like I was handed $1 million every time I hear positive, refreshing things from others. They allow me to have a larger dimension in my living space. And I say, wow, I'm just ecstatic over knowing that other people are bettering their lives. Because, you know, when you better your life, you're adding to the betterment of the world. That's the only way that it's ever going to happen. I mean, the Dalai Lama knows all of this.
Absolutely.
He's the one guy who's the head of the Buddhist religion. And the reason I started reading him back 21 years ago is because I was flabbergasted when I read a little statement of his that he says, yeah, I'm the head of my Buddhist sect, but he says, happiness is more important than my religion. I said, what?
Wow.
What?
Exactly.
What? What are you talking about? Happiness is more important than, yeah, because when you become happy, you become compassionate. That's the soul of Buddhism. And so, you know, this really is, now that I'm on tape, I would also say, you know what? It's a little bit of a thought forward, but if there were a religion called happiness, it would be one with no rules, just looking at the other person and saying, I love you. That would be all we needed. Now, that's not a bad religion, because in all honesty, you know, people say, well, you need God in that equation. Well, if you're looking at somebody else in the eyes and you say, I love you, isn't God being included in whatever way, thought, form, just the universe, just the fact that we live in a universe where there's something as dynamic as you and me in a world like this, that's not enough for most people. It's more than enough for me.
Right.
And I think when you're happy, you realize through gratitude what you really have. We all have it.
Absolutely.
The only difference is some people don't realize, and that's the only difference there is.
Absolutely. And I could agree with you more. We could talk about religion. We could talk about, you know, God. I believe in God. I believe in the strong being. I believe that He has created all of us. I believe that we are screwing it up. You know, it's not Him.
Yeah.
And I believe that I could get into religion, but we won't.
Okay.
But I do agree with you. I would love nothing more than to build happiness churches all around the world, for everybody to come together in one place. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters except the wanting to be happy. Because when you're happy, I believe I'm going to heaven because of the goodness inside of me, not because of the money I'm going to put in the little basket that they pass around on Sunday. I believe that as long as I could go ahead and I could spread sunshine,
Right.
and I'm not harming anybody, and everything that I do is truly from the goodness within, I will be accepted in heaven.
Sure.
The gates are going to flood open and go, she's here!
Well, you know, the only thing I disagree with you on wholeheartedly is when you say you will be, what you just said to me right now,
Mhm.
the way I see it, you've got your admittance pass now. Not will be. You're in.
I'm in.
You're in.
Here I come! Not yet, not yet.
Well, we're here now. Why
We are
should it
here
change?
now. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And, you know, we can create a heaven out of hell or a hell out of heaven.
Mhm.
Some people can't be happy with anything, and that's life, you know.
And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So it's our choice to gravitate towards the happiness, or we could gravitate towards the complainers and the kvetchers. And,
Sure.
you know, it's
Sure.
it's a choice.
Mhm.
And I'm just excited that our choice is to be here with you now.
Well, it's my privilege, and I think, you know, what we're doing for ourselves, because
Mhm.
that is what we're doing. We're doing it for us.
Yep, yep.
Let's be real
We
about
are.
that.
We are.
But when you do this kind of thing, you know what? We live in a goldfish bowl called the world. Whatever we do, it affects everyone.
Absolutely.
So in this case, I think what we're doing for us is going to have a very, very positive effect in
Mhm.
the world. And I think as more people do it, the effect will grow. And actually, we'll learn what the benefits are that we're still not even aware of yet. And as many. I mean, being happy adds 8 years to your life, scientifically proven. It helps you get over colds. It affects your immune system. There's so many benefits.
Absolutely.
Better friends and even success.
Mm-hmm.
Harvard's talking about the fact that happy people are much more successful.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so you get to the point where you can take all the pills you want, do all the exercise you want, eat well, but if you're not being happy, you're losing a big chunk of what's good for you.
I think
If nothing
the
else.
biggest chunk. I do. I believe that. I believe wholeheartedly that it's the biggest chunk. It's just not
Yeah.
a little chunk. It's not a part of chunk. It's a bigger chunk. You know, if they had a candy bar that's called happiness, man, I'll tell you what, I'd be.
Well,
I'd
you know, you say that, and not very long ago, the Hershey's commercials, the middle bar said happiness. So they see, it's funny.
That's right. I
Advertisers,
forgot about that.
advertisers already know you want happiness.
Yeah.
And so they've already gotten that, you know,
Sure.
like because you know they say when you see a beer commercial, there's a guy sitting in a beach chair with a bunch of girls running around in bikinis, and he's happy.
Right.
He's drinking a beer, but if you showed the same guy sitting at 11:30 at night in front of his TV set drinking a 6-pack
Right.
alone,
Not too
miserable,
happy.
they wouldn't sell any beer. So beer doesn't sell beer. Happiness sells beer. Nothing sells anything but happiness.
Right.
But the funny thing is that we've been buying everything so we get happy rather than go to the direct experience of being happy
Right.
so we could be happy.
Mm-hmm.
We never realized that. And the funny thing is, if you have happiness, everything else you really purchase for free. Everything else just comes to you. I mean, you know, there's been The Secret, the law of attraction.
Sure.
Well, try happiness out and
Oh.
see what that can do in your life.
It's
you know?
contagious.
Yeah, I mean, just today I had a whole bunch of people tell me I love you. So I mean, there's nothing like happiness.
And we do. We just love you. And you're absolutely right. It starts within. You
Yeah.
have to create the happiness. Don't look at anybody else. Don't look at what you can get. Look at what you can give.
What you can, you know, if you know, we can always give. Anybody can. Some people can only give a smile. They don't have any money.
That's perfect.
But that's a big thing. And I read a story about that where there was a person who was poor and they were helping somebody who was dying, and they gave them a smile, and that was very meaningful. But we underestimate many things that come from our heart. I think what's happened to human beings is we've developed this very well. You know, we can think, you know, we're smart, we're on the internet, we read a lot, we get a lot of facts. But do we really need so much information when we have a lot of that here, but we don't go here? We go to the internet, we don't go here. We don't come from here.
Right.
If we came from here more, I think we would not only find ourselves better, but we would create our connection to others and live in this world in a much different dynamic. I don't think we would have the craziness in the world that we experience today if we were taught or became more aware of what of how to live our lives through the heart more than our head.
Wow, very, very powerful. So what I would like to do, Lionel, is I'd like to share with everybody and close off with you. Do you like to laugh?
I do.
You love to laugh.
I do, especially when you start.
Well, will you laugh with me?
You betcha. You are the best.
You're fabulous. Oh my God, Lionel, thank you so much for spending this time with us. And
next.
And you know, everybody, we've got to leave the room, obviously.
Okay.
And but it's all good. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us at the Happy Now Happiness moment of my life right now, this moment, sharing it with Lionel. It is a true blessing to bring him to you and for me to sit here. You are amazing. You are amazing. And I just so much appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of us. Thank you, everybody.